Welcome to the latest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we've got multiple news items from the week, including a follow-up to our last video and the fallout from Chase Elliott's remarks at Kansas, a format change NASCAR announced this week that makes absolutely no sense and many fans aren't happy about, and lastly, a story on Hailie Deegan that her fans won't want to hear because it's not a good sign for her future. First, let's go back to last Sunday's race at Kansas. As I talked about in the last video, Chase Elliott was not happy at the end of the race with Hendrick Motorsports teammate Kyle Larson in a late race pit stop, where the 2021 champion moved to the right to avoid hitting Brad Keselowski, who was exiting from his pit stall, and made contact with the 2020 champion. Elliott responded a short time later after exiting pit road by driving into the door of the number 5 car. After the race, the 27-year-old walked over to his teammate's car and had a brief conversation about the incident. Elliott then talked with reporters and dismissed the incident, suggesting he wasn't sending a message to his teammate and that he didn't have a problem with Larson. However, his actions said something very different. A day later, the HMS teammate drama was unsurprisingly the talk of NASCAR. And Jamie McMurray summed up what most people were feeling during an appearance on NASCAR Race Hub.
On our side of it, because there's no real emotion involved. What's your take on all that?
Did you see every time Bob asked Chase a question, his nose kept getting longer? Did you notice that? 'Cause he was lying right there. He was not telling the truth. He was clearly mad at Kyle Larson in that.
On Tuesday, Elliott appeared on SiriusXM NASCAR radio, admitted his frustration at the moment, and said there was nothing else to see. As much as I want to believe him, it's hard to do that. Here's why. Those types of contacts by Larson with Elliott happen on the regular on pit road, but those types of responses and retaliation do not. As McMurray and countless other pundits have hinted throughout the week, there's more to this story. Most believe Elliott still harbors bad feelings from last year in the 2 incidents at Fontana and Watkins Glen, where he was on the receiving end with Larson. It can't help that he's the number 3 guy at HMS this year, behind both Larson and William Byron. I'll just say this, I don't think it's over. It may not happen again this year, but I don't think anyone would be surprised if the conflict reared its ugly head again sometime in 2024. Moving on to our next story, and NASCAR's decision this week to make a format change and bring back stage cautions at the upcoming race on the Charlotte Roval, right in the middle of the playoffs. The timing by itself is troubling, but listening to NASCAR Senior Vice President of Competition Elton Sawyer explaining the reasons for the decision on SiriusXM NASCAR radio this week is next level problematic. Take a listen.
At the Roval, we will introduce the stage break cautions. And I'm sure the question from our fans and even our competitors is, why do that now? Well, the one reason is that we want to make sure that throughout the playoffs, and in the 10-race Cup Series playoffs, we want to make sure that we were officiating across the board the same way. So now we will be, all of our races will have caution stage break. That includes the Roval here in a few weeks, as you alluded to. And number 2, and probably the most important part of this decision making, was if you look back at our 5 previous road course races, although they were competitive, there were some that felt like there were some things we could do differently. Obviously, going back to the stage breaks, caution stage breaks, that would potentially make our races better. So we have the option to pull that lever, working closely with our broadcast partners, our folks at Speedway Motorsports in Charlotte, and our industry stakeholders, and felt like the timing was right to do that as we head into the playoffs and finish up the first round and head into the second round.
The first reason given by Sawyer is absolutely ludicrous. NASCAR knew all along that the format of this race would be different, just like all the other road courses, when they announced the change on road courses before the season. Plus, there have been 0 problems officiating all the other road course races without stage break cautions. As for the second reason, Sawyer admitted that the racing was competitive, but there was a desire to make them better. Better than what? 3 out of the 5 races were viewed favorably in Jeff Gluck's Good Race poll. But if we're being honest, those fan ratings have nothing to do with stage breaks, but how the race ended and who won it. That was proven at both Indy and Watkins Glen, where the races were effectively the same. Michael McDowell dominating at Indy in a race with a single caution, and William Byron doing the same at Watkins Glen. Guess which race the fans enjoyed most? And it wasn't even close. The one where the underdog won, and not the one where the driver from the powerhouse team added another win to his growing total. But now, NASCAR officials believe adding 2 cautions during stage breaks is going to somehow, some way, make the racing product better? It might result in more accidents, as they say cautions breed cautions, but that's not necessarily better racing. Thankfully, it's just for the one race. Unfortunately, this single decision doesn't bode well for the removal of stage cautions at road courses in the future. And that's a shame, because as I noted on a previous video, I enjoyed the natural races playing out with varying strategies and the shorter time it took for the race. NASCAR has gotten a lot of things right this season, like making fixes to the next-gen car directly addressing safety concerns and adding the race in Chicago. But on this move, they got it all wrong. And finally, our last story is on the Truck Series' most popular driver, Hailie Deegan. The 22-year-old came into the 2023 NASCAR Truck Series season with high expectations after moving to ThorSport Racing, an organization known for winning races and championships. To improve her chances at success, the team moved 2021 title-winning crew chief Rich Lushes from Ben Rhodes to her number 13 truck. This week, the organization reversed course on that decision when it returned Lushes to the number 99 truck and reunited him with his champion driver. The move paid off in their first race back together, with the 26-year-old snapping a 4-race stretch without any top 10 finishes, scoring a 7th place finish at Bristol. Deegan finished 17th. But that crew chief switch, if you're a Deegan fan, isn't a good sign for the future, at least not at ThorSport. In this, her 3rd season in the trucks, everyone thought she would go on to have her best season in top equipment and all the necessary resources available to her, including her new crew chief. It just hasn't happened. Far from it, in fact. Based on the numbers alone, through 20 races, Deegan hasn't shown any improvement from her first 2 years at David Gilliland Racing. Last year was her best regarding top 10 finishes, where she recorded 2 versus a single one in 2021. This season, she has just 1. In 2021, she had 10 top 20 finishes. Last year, she recorded 12. This year, it's 11. So, with ThorSport pulling Lushes, who many consider to be the top crew chief in the Truck Series garage, and returning him to the number 99 truck, the organization is effectively saying 2 things. We want our best crew chief to help our playoff driver go as far as possible, but more concerningly for Deegan and her loyal supporters, ThorSport is saying, we gave you a chance with our top guy and don't believe you're worthy of his services anymore. With Deegan unable to find success with Lushes, it's hard to believe ThorSport will give her another chance in 2024 with another truck. If that's the case, it will automatically be viewed as a step down wherever she goes. Now, that doesn't mean she won't ever find success, but it does mean it will be a much steeper climb in doing so without the best of everything that she had available to her this season. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Deegan and her future at ThorSport and the Truck Series in general. Also, let me know what you think about NASCAR changing the playoff format and reintroducing stage cautions at the Charlotte Roval. And do you think there will be any more drama between Elliott and Larson in the future? Let me know. Thanks as always for checking out the latest video, and have a great rest of your day.